Welcome back to my Pokémon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Poison Type Pokémon. In the last episode, we spent a lot of time working on side missions and areas, gliding through the optional water routes to the south, exploring the industrial Fuego Ironworks, enjoying the peaceful Floroma Meadow, and drudging through the depths of Iron Island. A section of truly exciting progressions, and also tragedy. Time to find out what happens next. Let's do this. Following the events of Iron Island, we trained up our team just a bit more, and now it's time for Byron. As I battle through the trainers, I can't help but feel a little bit more stressed out about the gym as a whole this time around. I can't explain it. I mean, we have all the tools to get through this, but something just feels a little off. I'm probably just overthinking again. I've got a plan in place. Nothing left to do but execute. Byron leads with his Magneton, and we lead with Toxicroak. About time he got some real action in. After thinking about it for quite some time, I decided that he would be our best target to give our Earthquake TM to. And in this case specifically, Magneton does not stand a chance. Steelix comes in next, and because of its massive physical bulk, I don't think we're taking it down with a single strike here. I pivot through Crobat to avoid the Earthquake, and then I send in Tentacruel on the Ice Fang. Looking good so far. And then I go for the Choice Specs boosted Surf on the following turn. Steelix goes down, and now we've got nothing but Byron's ace left. Metal Burst genuinely scares the crap out of me, so I gotta be careful here. I switch into our new Roserade next to set up the Leech Seed. I wanted to make sure that we were super careful with this one. Because the Metal Burst kept coming out, I actually settled on spamming Toxic, fully knowing that it would not affect Bastiodon in any way, but this was helpful in stalling it out long enough to put it into range of Giga Drain. Eventually though, Byron decides to abandon his original plan, and Bastiodon goes for a nasty Stone Edge. Luckily we survive, and after the next Leech Seed, we go for the kill. We don't get it, and after the Citrus Berry pops, the Metal Burst finally comes out. Thankfully, it was not enough to take us out, but I'm not so sure I want to risk something crazy happening to our Roserade here, so I switch into Toxicroak next to bring this one home. The Stone Edge does come out instead, but our fighting type comes in clutch here with the Resistance. Byron does get a full restore, but that just gives us a free turn as a result. 2 Brick Breaks later, and badge number 6 is ours. Ironically, I don't feel too much better about our position after that fight. Even though it went fairly well, I guess I may just be a little bit shaken up from how these attempts have been going so far overall. I mean, we may only have a single death so far in this attempt, but we've gotten away with a lot of close calls. Moving on to another story-related thread involving explosions, we make our way over to Lake Valor to deal with Team Galactic again, this time led by Commander Saturn. Why are these Magikarp in a pile? Like, was there no other way to block us off in the western part of the lake? I suppose this is just another way to convey how evil Team Galactic really is. I feel like most of the characters in the game haven't really been taking Team Galactic too seriously up until this point, but I guess setting off a second bomb is an effective way to shift our expectations. Let's deal with Saturn. Generally speaking, Saturn tends to not feel anywhere near as threatening as Mars and or Jupiter, despite being the senior quote-unquote commander. I guess that's just because his Pokemon are far more appropriate for their levels, whereas Mars and Jupiter both use final stage evolutions far before they technically evolve. Overall, this fight is fairly straightforward, with Tentacruel taking out Golbat. Our Crobat deals with Toxicroak, and eventually Saturn's floating dinner plate as well. back where it all began in Twin Leaf Town, which will probably be the only time we ever return here, but it's good that Mom can at least heal up our team before we head over to Lake Verity. As one commander falls, another takes his place. Mars number 2 is up next. We lead with Tentacruel again as we did last time, and the Ice Beam comes out for a ton of damage. We do get hit with the Supersonic, but Tentacruel is able to break through in the next turn and finish Golbat off. With Bronzor in now, I decided to keep our Jelly in and see how far we can take this. Despite the confusion lasting for quite a long time, Tentacruel held her own very well here. Even the super effective extra sensories weren't really hitting us nearly as hard, thanks to our special bulk. After finally snapping out of confusion, Bronzor goes down to another Surf. With Purugly out now, I switch into our Toxicroak and we get hit with the Slash. The damage we can dish out with Toxicroak will not be enough to take Mars' ace down with a single strike, and we do not want to risk a crit here if we can help it. I send out Gengar instead, hoping to get a free switch on that Slash. Purugly goes for the Hypnosis instead, but luckily it misses. I throw out a Psychic on the next turn to see how much damage we can get in, and as it turns out, it's a freaking lot. Purugly tosses out another Hypnosis in response, and misses. Should be smooth sailing from here, except apparently we're speed tied? And now you understand why this stress hasn't subsided yet? That could have been the end of attempt number 5 right there. Alright, are we awake yet, guys? We fly over to Celestic Town to heal up and head over to Mount Coronet. We've got a couple of small sections here to take care of with some various items lying about. While we travel through the caves and the snowy routes to the north, I think now is a good time to evaluate the team and what my thoughts are on them. What you are seeing down at the bottom of the screen is basically our final team plus Dustox instead of Barrel. That's it. There are 2 huge issues that I can see right off the bat, both involving the encounters we no longer have. Both Skuntank and Drapion were going to play pivotal roles in the later stages of the game for a couple of reasons. One, they both embody the secondary dark typing, which is the only real answer we have for psychic types we battle against in Sinnoh. I said it in the last episode, Lucian is going to be interesting. And the second reason Skuntank and Drapion were important is for their bulk. We do not have a single tank remaining on the team now, especially from the physical side, making our team very vulnerable against a plethora of high attack Pokemon. Crobat and Dustox are literally our physical based tanks now, and otherwise we have a team full of glass cannons for the most part. Every single team member is going to be crucial for something, Gengar in particular. We really need him to carry us through a lot of the obstacles ahead. Nothing too much to comment on regarding the snowy areas this time around. It's important to note that we did utilize the move tutor in Snowpoint City to teach Synthesis to Roserade. I think self-healing in general is going to be a bit more necessary now that we're down to our final 6. We've had a lot of big fights so far in this episode, but I guess that's just par for the course in a Sinnoh playthrough. Lots of big fights are just packed into the mid to late game transition period. If I had a bad feeling about Byron, you can imagine how I was feeling about Candace. Oh well, no turning back now. Let's do this. The long-awaited return of Dustox is finally upon us, although his job is a very simple one in this case, and that's to set up a Light Clay boosted light screen, which basically means it'll last for 8 turns. Now I did this not for the Sneasel, but for Candace's future threats, especially Frostlass, as that's what I'm expecting to see after Sneasel goes down. I switch into Toxicroak on the Aerial Ace. No crits there, but I have to avoid another here in order to get past Candace's first Pokemon. We avoid the crit again, and Sneasel goes down. Piloswine comes out instead, probably because her health is so low. Now that I think about it, it literally could have been anyone. And so we switch into Crobat, hoping for the Earthquake. Thankfully, that's exactly what we get, and so at least it was a free switch. Crobat cannot do anything here offensively, obviously, so we switch into Gengar next. Avalanche comes out. Lots of damage there. Let's see what this Shadow Ball can do for us against Piloswine's weaker special defense. Piloswine falls. And we most certainly needed that if we wanted any chance at all of making it out of this thing alive. Frostlass comes in now, and I am praying we are faster. We aren't, but the double team comes out instead. And Shadow Ball connects. Does anyone know if that's just how her AI works? Like, does Frostlass always go for double team regardless if it sees a kill or not? Because I just refuse to believe that there was any single way that Shadow Ball of Frostlass wouldn't have killed us as well, right? In any case, I am certainly not going to complain about it, and now we've got Abomasnow to deal with. Generally speaking, this is usually one of Candace's easier Pokemon to deal with, but we don't have Drapion or Skuntank anymore for fire coverage, and this thing can actually hit like a freaking truck. I figured Tentacruel would be our best option here for the resistances at least, and I went for the barrier right out of the gate as well to make sure we were as tanky as possible. Ice Beam doesn't deal anywhere near enough damage to get us through this, and the Wood Hammer in response hurts quite a lot. We did give Tentacruel the Black Sludge and Protect combo to get some free health back in between turns, but I think a Wood Hammer crit at this point would surely take us out, and we aren't dealing enough damage to keep up with it anyway. Predicting another Wood Hammer, I switch into Crobat now to bring this one home. But we get hit with the Avalanche? What kind of decision was that? Can anyone explain this AI to me? There's no crit at least, but now we've got a tough call to make. Cross Poison can kill in a range, but if it doesn't, I don't think we have any other switch options at this point. We just have to go for it. And another one falls. Gengar comes in to clean up the rest of the fight, awarding us with our 7th badge of the run. With Crobat now down and out, it would seem pretty reasonable to call it quits right here. But against my better judgment, at least for now, I'm gonna keep this thing going for as long as possible. I assure you that this isn't any sort of blind decision here. After the fight with Candace, I ended up spending a few hours theory crafting the rest of the run with what we have left, and I wouldn't be continuing down this path if I didn't fully believe that we could handle it. We're gonna keep this thing moving, and with that being said, let's continue the run. After briefly dealing with the events of Lake Acuity, it's time to start working towards the ultimate climax of Sinnoh's story. Let's get over to Galactic HQ. Looker has quickly become Sinnoh's version of Mr. Stone's letter from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, at least on this channel. I just can't help but continue to harp on how useless he is. Although, at least he's funny in a way, I suppose. And at least he's far less useless than the Galactic grunts we encountered in our fight through the warehouse and the primary HQ building. The only pickup we receive here is the TM for Sludge Bomb, which could be utilized by either Tentacruel or Roserade if we feel that we need it. Sludge Bomb is such a great move on paper, but if you've been following the series since the very beginning, you already know how I feel about the poison typing from an offensive standpoint. The move pools that Pokemon have now in this generation are so much more diverse that it just seems like it would be really difficult to justify a move such as Sludge Bomb, which will almost never hit for super effective damage for like the remainder of the run, basically. After listening in on Cyrus's speech, it's time to face the man himself for a second time. I hope you guys have been enjoying the battle sequences so far, because I think we're already on fight number 5 in this episode. Let's do this. I lead with Gengar to deal with his Sneasel again, as Gengar is the only one left that potentially outspeeds Cyrus's future ace. Surprisingly though, the Thunderbolt does not kill, and we do get hit with a Screech. Another couple of Thunderbolts later, and Sneasel finally goes down. With Honchkrow in now, if it wasn't painfully obvious already, we're going for the exact same choice spec strats that we performed on Cyrus the first time around. Let's see if Thunderbolt is enough this time. And it is. Crobat is all that remains. We are no longer faster, and we do get hit with the Supersonic. But Gengar is able to break through, and another vicious bolt of lightning connects. Crobat goes down, and another clean Cyrus fight is in the books. No time for rest though. Saturn and Colress are waiting for us in the next room. He's probably pretty pissed off at us from our first encounter. Let's see if his boost in strength causes any issues for us this time. Because he uses basically the exact same team he had before, just with higher levels, I begin the fight using the same strategy as I used the first time. Tentacruel lands an Ice Beam right out of the gate, and then Golbat counters with Confuse Ray. We aren't lucky this time around as we hit ourselves in confusion. The incoming bite doesn't deal too much, and the Black Sludge is going to really help us stay in this. We go for another attack. And this time, the Ice Beam connects, sending Saturn's bat back to its Pokeball. Bronzor appears once again, and we do what we can with Tentacruel. The confusion is very punishing this time around, and a crit from Extrasensory is starting to look very awkward. Knowing that we will most likely snap out of confusion on the next turn, I go for the Black Sludge to see how much health we can get back from it. It's definitely not enough, so we're going to switch into Dustox now just to be safe. I mentioned earlier that dealing with anything that has a Psychic type move is going to be quite the challenge, and even though Bronzor isn't very strong, it still poses an issue for us. I send in Roserade next because I know its Special Bulk will be able to take the hits. I go for the Leech Seed and then stall until Bronzor finally succumbs to our endless draining of life. I kept Roserade in for Toxicroak as well, which in hindsight wasn't a great move, as a crit from Poison Jab would have brought us down here, but we did get the Leech Seed off at least. I then switch into our own Toxicroak to bring this one home, because he has something that Saturn's doesn't. Earthquake. Saturn falls for the last time, and we get to free the Lake Spirits as our reward. And with that, this episode is now over. But attempt number 5 is not. Against my better judgment, I'm going to keep this thing going, even if only 5 Pokemon remain. In the next episode, we look to scale Mount Coronet and end Team Galactic shenanigans once and for all. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. That's it from me. I'll see you next time.